Medieval is best.
All right, so we're live. So welcome to Talking Orangutans Podcast. This is number 30. Today I'm chilling with Kristo, who is one of the Helderberg boys,
Yes.
who I met in the sauna.
The sauna.
Before we start with that, guys, I'm going to try and get at least 20 to 40 podcasts this year. I will be moving to Poland at some point, so that will be quite fascinating to see who I'll be interviewing later the year. If you like the podcast, please press subscribe. It's not that I'm going to make money or my guests are making money, but it's making me feel good and it's motivating me to continue. If you like the podcast, please press like. It's some form of interaction where I actually know people are listening and it helps me to continue it. It's just a hobby, so I do this just to learn from other people and hopefully you guys can do it too. To introduce Kristo. Kristo I met in the gym on the 1st of January. I know that because it's my birthday and my wife got me to go to Virgin Active.
1st January is your birthday.
Yeah, so I turned 35 on the 1st of Jan.
Happy birthday. Sorry.
Thanks, man. And I saw Kristo at the gym and we just started talking shit in the sauna. And it turns out that we've actually got a lot in common. And that's why he's here. So we're both Afrikaans, we're both from the Cape Winelands. He matriculated in 2000, I matriculated in 2003. He was in our competitor called Boys Eye. I was Paul Roos Gymnasium, and then he went to the Strand. We both come from a Christian background, but we're both agnostic. I'm not sure even if I'm agnostic. I'm possibly an atheist these days. No, I'm not, but... my year has been tough, so I'm struggling with this whole concept of a higher power. He's been living abroad for a number of years, 12, I think.
12 years, yeah.
He spent a year or two in the UK, which I also did, and then he moved to another European country, which I also did. He's married to a foreigner, which I'm married to a foreigner. He's a big Joe Rogan fan, which is obviously me. If you think my podcast is similar and I'm stealing shit from there, obviously, because
So
it's
what?
awesome.
Yeah.
He's also a Jordan Peterson fan and he likes a bunch of other podcasts. And he's just, as you can see, he's quite buff. He's quite strong, so he also just likes to be healthy, which is a big part of what I do, and also a MMA fan. And that's basically Kristo. He's also a father of 2 kids.
2 kids, yeah.
Also a bit skeptical about the far left
Very skeptical.
and probably of the far right. So basically just based on that, I said to him, dude, missing this opportunity while you're visiting in South Africa, we just got to do a podcast and see what happens. So that's Kristo.
Absolutely. Wow,
So-
thank you very much.
Welcome. And if you're wondering what this podcast is going to be about, I sent Kristo 10 questions that will be down in the description box, either on YouTube or on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, whatever. Just check the 10 questions. That's the framework or the skeleton for today's interview. I think it will be probably about an hour and a half, if I estimate, maybe shorter, longer, and I'm sure we'll be going off topic as I always do. Dude, number one, what made you leave South Africa? Which year did you leave it and why did you leave it?
Okay, let's think for a minute. I did the normal London thing like most South Africans did, which was a great experience actually, which I think most South Africans needed because we kind of grew up in this bubble. You know, South Africans don't really think that they get controlled by their government. We don't even explore that possibility. Like now you would see, like me living in Europe, I can see how the government controls things. Probably because I'm older now, but at the time growing up here, I've never met any South African that would say, you know, we're being, I don't know, somehow controlled or our speech or anything like that. I mean, even the music artists that came here. And that was known here. I don't know if you know the story about what's his name? Sugar Man? You know,
Yeah.
the guy that does cold
Yeah,
cut?
yeah, yeah.
You know, that whole thing. you know what I mean?
Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yeah.
Yeah, Rodrigo.
So I think we got controlled a lot in that sense. For what purposes, I'm not quite sure because I just didn't know enough at the time. What made me leave South Africa is nothing other than just wanting to see what's out there, you know, exploring. So I did the London thing, then I came back, started to study sports and marketing management at Boland College here in Stellenbosch, and then that didn't work out. It wasn't for me, and my dad said, you know, well, what would you like to do? I said, maybe I want to go travel a bit more, not just London, because even though London is traveling, it's not. Everybody went there. It became just this kind of point A to point B thing for South Africans. It's not really traveling. It's just we go there, ons gemaak ons geld, and then we come back. And that was the common theme amongst all South Africans that you talk to there. They would ask you, so how much money are you bringing back to South Africa? That's what they would ask you. You know, South Africans love to count your money. So they would tell me, so how much money did you, and if I said nothing, which I didn't, bring fuck all back, they would go like, whoa. Because my one friend brought back like R500,000. You know? And people are like, oh, cool. So you did the right thing in London. You did the right thing. Like, what is the right thing? You know, I went there to just experience. I went insane in London. Insane. And like a lot of other South Africans that I met, they went insane too.
You mean insane like party or?
Yeah, like party.
Yeah.
It's almost like that thing where a Dominic's child is always the one that, you know, causes the most shit. You know, It's something like that, and it's the South Africans finally got unleashed in London, and they could be whatever they want and experience whatever they want. And I met like people who were in school with me. And I'm talking about A students constantly, like 97%ers, smart people, very fucking by the rule. And then they go to London and I see them and they are coked out of their mind. Not because they're drug addicts, but they just experience. I can tell they're experiencing freedom for the first time. And that made me think, like, what hold did South Africa have on us? Because South Africans don't, in my opinion, at that time, for that generation there, didn't quite know what the world was about. So London was great for that. Obviously, that was just a taste. So
how many years did you spend there?
2 years.
Working holiday visa.
Yeah, the normal thing. A lot of my friends.
I know some people that got a 2-year working holiday and they spent 8 years there until they got blacklisted.
Exactly. Like some of my friends worked on the subway station. They bought fake passports for something like £2,000.
Gee whiz.
You know, and they're still there today. You know. They wanted to stay. Funny enough, one of them is actually a Domini. I'm not going to name names, obviously, but
anyone listening in Germany is like a pastor.
Yeah, pastor. Sorry.
So we the famous pastor's children.
Yeah.
And were you thinking of staying on in the UK once your 2 years expired, or you were quite comfortable to come home?
I didn't want to come back, because I didn't know what was waiting for me here. Because South Africa wasn't going through that transitioning phase. I was skeptical. Don't know why I was skeptical. Maybe I bought into the whole thing, the fear mongering, because there was a whole section of South Africans who said everything's just going to go to shit, right? And to a certain extent, you might even today say, well, yeah, it's true. But it's kind of, maybe you can say it's growing pains.
And for anyone listening, and what you're saying, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, so you matriculated in 2000, which was 6 years after 94. You know, so whenever we have a discussion about South Africa, it's normally pre-94, post-94. It's almost like before the Berlin Wall came down and afterwards. And I matriculated in 2003, so I was a little bit... I was 9 years in the new South Africa, where you only here 6 years. It was still like the change of the millennium, like all the computers were going to crash, and there were a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you were similar, but I grew up with a lot of people, and my parents. You had to go do your 1 or 2 year military service, And I always thought of, I got to go do something, and then going to the UK, is that perfect?
But sorry, did you have to do your military?
No, but I wanted to.
So you could still have there was still that. I didn't even realize there was an option to do military service.
I think you can always sign up for the military if you wanted. I did have a friend that tried to, and they declined him, but they might, I don't know why, what reasons they declined him on. But I think up until mid-2000s, you probably could have done that.
Okay.
I doubt that the military will ever decline more people coming in.
I just never
But we have a
realized-
different approach to military than, let's say, America. I think they would love a lot. Which, let's segue there. Why did you think of joining the British military?
Here's the thing, because I was young, and to give a bit more context with that is my best friend. His name was Ross, and he was a fucking awesome guy, man. And you know, he was like the pillar of strength in my life, because my life was very, you know, my growing up was very chaotic, with marriages and divorces and stupid shit like that. So
Yours or parents?
Mine. No, mine.
Okay.
Oh, my parents. I mean, my parents. But
Yeah.
you know, boy, where he was, his parents were very structured, and he lived on the farm. We lived in Grabouw at that point. You know Grabouw?
Yeah.
So he was the neighboring farm, and I met him there, and we became best friends, you know, since, I don't know, what was the age? Like 8 years old, 9 years old. And his friends, his parents had stability, like structure, heavy structure. They were 4 boys. They weren't religious, but they were very structured in the way they had to do everything because of money, like economics. They had to sort everything out, so like once a week. And I loved that, because my house was so chaotic, there was no structure. So I guess there was some kind of subconscious draw towards that structure. So I always spent time with him, and we became best friends. And you know, after that, then through school, we went to London, did the 2-year thing. He was always interested in the military. The guy had confidence through the roof. Like he could not be fazed by anything. Confidence that I only dream of, you know. But not in an arrogant way, in a very attractive way.
Yeah,
Like
self-belief.
Self-belief. If people met him, they loved him. Everybody loved him. Ross Clark was his name, and I have to give it, because if somebody might listen, they might say, "I know that guy," and he was a legend. And he liked it, and I only wanted to do it because he wanted to do it. I didn't really give a shit about much thing, because I'm easygoing like that generally in life. You know, I thought, he wants to join the army, like, yeah, okay, I'll join the army with you, because you're my best friend and I want to be with you. But at the same time, when we were literally standing in the office in line. I mean, there's people there joining, and something just told me, this is not you, Kristo. Like, as easy as going as I am, luckily, my higher conscious, whatever you want to call it, said to me, Kristo, this is fokker jy nie. So I said, nah, Ross, you know, my friend, I love you and all. I want to join this. I want to do this with you, but I don't. I want to, but I don't think this resonates with me at all on a deeper level that I didn't even understand at the time. What am I, 20 years old? Something like that. He's like, I want to do it. I'm going to do it. Because he's like that. He was kind of, his confidence was, he does what he wants to do, and he doesn't really question it. He doesn't think. I'm more of a thinker, you know, which to my own detriment, sometimes I think too much. I overanalyze, and he didn't, and he just went with it, and he loved every minute of it.
And that was the Iraq War, or
That was the Iraq War. That was when that shit happened. When was the 9/11 thing?
2001.
Yeah, so that's just before that, in that whole thing. And then he went to Afghanistan, and, you know, he fought there. He came back, and then I met him in Stellenbosch again, and we had a talk, and I said, bro, you can't test fate twice, you know, don't go back.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I was like begging him, and he's like, fuck it, you know, I'm gonna go back. So he went back again, and the second time was unfortunate for him. And I just find that so fascinating. Like, we're standing at that moment, it's like a crossroad. He chose one way, which led to his death, but at the same time, he enjoyed every minute of it. And it wasn't for political reasons. It wasn't for patriotic reasons. He had no allegiance to the UK. He just wanted to have a gun and shoot shit. It sounds very stupid, I know. It sounds crazy, but he enjoyed that kind of thing, and I think that's why he was so attractive as a person, because he just did what he wanted to do. Even if you disagreed with him, he had no doubt. He just went straight ahead, and I think people resonate to that. You know, they attract to that. Just going for what you want, regardless of whether it's the wrong thing or the right thing, in my opinion, which I think it was. But I didn't know it at the time, actually. I didn't. After he died, that's what made me think, like, what was this all for? You know, what was this? My best friend just went into the army. He fucking died. And what for? What for? And that's what started my whole, you know, like I said, we shouldn't open this can of worms about conspiracies. And I don't want to go in there unnecessarily.
Yeah.
But for the context now, you know, like I started looking into everything, like 9/11, because that's what started it all, right?
Yeah.
And is the official story, and not only just that. Actually, I remember the day I watched it on TV. I saw another building fall, Building 7, and I saw it fall just like this. And my own logic just told me that this is weird. A building doesn't fall like that, and you know, the rest is history. I don't know. I don't want to, you know, get into that whole. I can go on for days. But I don't want to, you know, stand on any toes and get people all like, oh.
Yeah. No, listen. If anyone gets offended, I've heard a phrase that if you get offended, it's your fault.
But it's not about getting them offended. I don't mind offending people, but I want to draw them into the conversation. And I feel like if I just go bam, one shot, throw it all out there, that they're gonna automatically they will respond and say, "Maar jy's vol kak, man." Yeah. And then the conversation gets nowhere.
No, you got to release it incrementally, and it's also like you don't want to. I don't think this is the forum to do it, because I don't think anyone logging in here is logging in to be taught the real truth of the world. Maybe,
but they are logging in to just listen to somebody talk.
No, definitely. So but I think there's more interesting parts to you than.
I'm all that, bro. I'm 24/7. I am conspiracy world. No,
so, but we might get back to that. But I remember watching documentary Zeitgeist, and
Zeitgeist is brilliant. Yeah.
And my thing with the conspiracy theories is. I watched this documentary Zeitgeist, but who are their sources? Where are they getting the information from? I want to know, if you're telling me this, where do you get your information, and how do I... And for me, it's just this thing of... but at the end, like, there's no one 100% trustworthy, because everyone's got an agenda.
But you're not going to find somebody trustworthy, because that's the whole point. It's done in secret. It's a conspiracy. And the fact that people think people don't conspire, you have to look at the definition of the word. I mean, it's two people getting together and deciding to do something secretly. That's a conspiracy. So why? But because we've been so indoctrinated to, if you say the word conspiracy, people automatically, their mind goes, cook, tinfoil hat wearing. The movies do it. Everybody does it.
Yeah.
I mean, you see the movies. What's that movie called? Blown Away, remember? Mel Gibson. Anyway, he's in his basement, you know, and he's wearing a tinfoil hat, and he's got newspaper clippings everywhere, and I see fucking Malo. But in the end of the day, he's right. Yeah. You know, Listen, I've not been wrong in any of my conspiracies so far, as far as I'm concerned. That it all turns out true. I'm in the right direction. I might miss a fact here and there, because everything is done in secret. So how can you tell me that I should have, well, where's your proof? It's like, no, there is no proof. It's like a detective. A detective gets a hunch, right? Yeah. So he goes after that hunch, and then he eventually cracks the case. So we have hunches. Something is not right with the whole thing. So
yeah. And I
can't give you more than that, unfortunately.
No, cool. But I want to get back to what you said about your friend, which is you wanted to run around with a gun, basically. And I don't have that now, but I also grew up with that. There was this weird I think especially people our generation, we were a little bit removed from the military service because I think it stopped around about 94 or something. And I think a lot of bad shit happens to people in the military with their head if they see certain things. And I think there was this little break of about 10 years of people our immediate generation above us. They didn't have this, they weren't as fucked up as maybe a generation 20 or 30 years older. Like if you look at the generation of my dad, they all have some skeletons in there from stuff that they've seen. And so I think we grew up with a little bit of, the military is a nice place, you come back pretty cool, and it's nice. And we grew up in the era of 90s blockbuster movies. So it's like you just see all this shit all the time. Propaganda. And then it's the internet and then it's like if you want to be a real man, it's almost like got to join the military. I feel sad for kids these days because they watch The Rock full of steroids and being buff as fuck. And then it's like, I've got to look like that if I want to be a real man. And it's like, well, dude, you can, but can you eat like that? Can you work out like that? Do you have
that bone structure?
And, can you actually inject liters of testosterone into your body?
Yes.
Which, if you think of what people grew up 20, 30 years ago of what, like Sean Connery didn't look super buff. No. So I think it's just interesting to see each generation grows up different. But I used to have this fascination. I still have a fascination with military. It's one of my favorite podcasts to do. I've had two.
Can I interject here quickly?
Yeah.
Have you seen there's a guy on YouTube that opens rations from every country in the world. And he opens rations from 1950 or 1930. He somehow gets hold of them, and they're sealed, perfectly sealed. And it's so addicting just to watch this. And everybody who comments on it says exactly the same thing. They say, why am I watching this? But it's so addictive. Like he'll open a ration bag from South Africa, which he did. He opened a bag from South Africa from the 1940s or something. I don't know the dates, but it's very old. And it could be from Canada. And then you check what's in the little ration pack of the military, and he'll open it and he'll eat it. Okay. And you just sit there, and you next time you think like 2 hours have gone by.
No, that's interesting. Dude, I'm going to get on to the next question because question one took us about 20 minutes. But
yes. Okay.
What made you decide on becoming a foreign national in another country rather than returning to South Africa? Because what was the transition from coming back to South Africa, then you studied, and then at some point you decided to go over again. So what made you decide to leave South Africa again, and what made you stay there rather than coming back?
I've thought about, of all the questions you gave me, this is the question I thought about most, because right now I'm in a transition again, psychologically. I left South Africa, so I came back from London, right? I tried to study at Boland College. It didn't work out, not because it was the wrong subject. It just didn't work out. Anyway, so my dad sent me, he said, like, I told him I want to go back overseas. So he bought me one of these round the world tickets that you can get. It was pretty decent price. And I said, yeah, that's cool. For 1 year, I travel around the world. So you got all your destinations booked. I was fortunate enough that he could do that for me because, he's my stepdad, by the way. Before that, I grew up very, very poor with my mother alone for many years. And then she met this wonderful man who I consider my dad, Raymond Danowski. And he said, you know what? It's cool. Studies didn't work out. I'm going to send you overseas. So he sent me overseas. So I started, with Thailand and then China and Singapore. And then I landed in Japan. And in Japan is where I met my wife. Although she was Swedish, she was there for a grant, like a study thing with her friend, study partner. So we met there in a hostel, like you meet many people when you travel. And I just fell in love with her there. And the reason I fell in love with her is because she was so different. I didn't like South African women. And this is not This is not to give them any shit, South African women, you know? No, because some of them might be listening and go, what? But they were too Christian for me.
Yeah.
I don't like the whole Christian thing. And that was it. It was the Christian thing. Like, they expected something from me as a man. Like, my role, your role. And I couldn't get my head around that. Like, wie the fuck, ek hoef niks vir jou te doen nie. Like, I'm your husband, sure, but now, because I'm a husband, I have to be somehow the breadwinner, and she has to do the kids thing. Obviously, things have changed now a lot.
Yeah.
The way this is a whole different conversation now. But then, which is 10 years ago, it's not even that long. I just couldn't. I liked a lot of South African women, but I couldn't get I don't know. She just fascinated me. She was foreign. She would give me shit. Like, we were sitting in the hotel, the hostel in Japan, and we were having arguments. And I just was fascinated by her. She didn't back down. She just stood her ground, and I loved that. You know,
It was refreshing.
It was refreshing, exactly.
Because that's what I had with my wife, who's Polish. And like, I took her out, our first date.
Yeah.
Took her out to this place. We're busy talking, and I'm telling her about something about my childhood, playing sport and shit. And suddenly she's like, this topic is boring. Can we please move on to the next one? I'm like, what? What the fuck is going on here? That's so rude in my culture. But in her culture, it's like, you don't beat around the bush. You call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
And I loved it because there's so much bullshit where I come from. And it was so refreshing. I loved it.
Exactly. Your roles here are so defined. Where in Europe it started getting, it's progressive.
Yeah.
You know.
And okay, again, like with this conservative background that we grow up in, there's a lot of backstabbing. There's a lot of two-faced motherfuckers that, you know, they first at the church gates, but they're the first to lie.
Yeah.
And fucking talk behind your back and all of this. So I just appreciate anyone that's got the courage to be honest to your face and tell you that I don't like you.
Exactly.
Then the respect that you have. So, and in this conservative Afrikaans Christian town that we grew up in, it's or area, we both, I see, have a disconnect with our roots.
Our roots, yeah.
There's something there that we just don't associate with.
No, that's spot on. It's exactly that. At the time, I didn't like the model that we had here. The woman has to do this and the man has to do that. I didn't like that at all. Now, unfortunately, even just saying that now in our current climate, that might get confused as, oh, you're one of these progressive guys, these PC guys, who's all like, women are like men or whatever, and they can do exactly what men. No, they can't. Men and women do have their different roles, and it's set up evolutionary. You can't argue it. It's how it is. The women are the way they are because of evolution, and men are the way they are because of that. But it doesn't mean, I don't think it means that a woman has to take care of the kids. It's her. She's, how can I say? She's. This is where I have to choose my words carefully because it's such a sensitive thing, and now, well.
So you offend on average, if you look to all my audio listeners and YouTube viewers, you offend about 60 people right now, if you're going to say this, and those 60 people disagree with you. So let's say 50 are going to disagree with you. You're only going to offend 30 people.
And I'm cool
with
that.
It's not that much.
I'm cool with that. It's like, you know, it's like Jordan says, you can't have a serious conversation about something without offending somebody. That's normal. That's a normal part of a conversation. You get offended in the sense, you don't go all in an emotional tantrum.
Yeah.
But
you know what's, just to help you on a little bit, you have a belief set, you have an idea set, and you have something that you believe in. And look how hesitant you are to say what you believe.
Exactly.
And where these people that attack you so freely break down your spirit. And this is not good for me and you, because we grew up in a background where we were seen, not heard. You know, a big part of my happiness in adulthood is practicing expressing myself and being confident enough to express myself, because we were beat down as kids, like just fucking do what I say. You don't have a say in fucking nothing. your life is set out for you that you're going to go to this school, you're going to go to that school, you're going to get a university degree, you're going to do this, you're going to get married at fucking 24, you're going to have kids at 26, and then...
Ridiculous.
So a big part of my happiness in adulthood is just saying what I think and I feel. And listen, sometimes I change my views, and as long as I express my views respectfully, under the consideration that it might offend someone, I think fair game, and so say what you want to say. I think I've never met a friend who has kids that said that they always say, the kids want the mom the first 2 years.
Yeah.
They do not give a fuck about the dad.
No, they don't.
The kids don't care about daddy. They just want the fucking mom. And there's something within the mom that is designed to help the kids for that first 2 years.
Exactly. I've not seen this. I suppose I can read about this if I investigate it, but I felt I don't even have to do that. Like, I can see the pattern. Like, one thing I can do well is see patterns. I just see the patterns, and let me think. Like, you see, now I lose my train of thought. I'm probably gonna edit that out.
We're rolling, man.
Okay,
we're rolling.
Um,
Identifying patterns and looking at women and the way they raise the kids, and the kids only want the mom.
Yeah, the kids only want the mom. I don't think that's true. Like, because I married Lucia, right? And she lives in this more progressive. Lucia is my wife, so this is more progressive there in Sweden and things. She didn't want to stay at home. She's an extrovert, and that's what I looked at. Not because of your role, like, oh, you're the woman, you should stay at home. I should fucking be going out. And no, I understand. I'm an introvert. She's an extrovert. And she told me, Kristo, I can't stay at home like this. Now, a lot of men, I think, in South Africa would go, whoa, what the hell are you even talking about? Yeah. How can you even say shit like that? But I understood it. I understood that she loved her kids. There's no doubt about that. Jesus Christ. She loved the kids, but she couldn't stay at home. I can easily stay at home for the rest of my life. I can. Because I'm like that. I'm a nester. I like my home, and my home is my thing. And I stayed at home while she went out and worked. So I took her leave, in a sense, so while she could go out and do, just live her life, go to work and stuff like that. So I stayed at home. So I became the woman. If you have to compare it, I became the woman, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It also gave me a newfound respect and an understanding of what woman goes through, because men are easily to say, maar jy doen fokol, jy sit by die huis en jy kyk na die kind. This is a lot of work, man, bro. Yes, it's a lot of work. It's not.
Stay at home, Dad. Yes. I can only imagine the amount of work involved. And how many kids do you guys have?
2.
Yeah, so like the more kids, I thought at one point of being a stay-at-home dad, and I was like, Jesus, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but it's a good
and
experience.
And you got to be emotionally stable if you want to do that. It's not like hats off to anyone that raises any kid and they give it their all.
Exactly.
Because it takes
hard work, but fucking fantastic experience, especially for a man. And in the climate we are now, where everybody's uncertain about their role, regardless of all that shit, it doesn't matter. It's an experience that men have not really had up until this point, historically speaking. And there's nothing wrong with a man wanting to stay home. And that's what I like. That's what I appreciated about Sweden, because they allowed me to stay at home for a year. 1 year. I think in South Africa it's like, 2 weeks?
2 weeks,
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Or 3, I think you get 3 days. I don't know. Yeah, it's something crazy. It's
something you can't experience anything worthwhile in 3 days. You're more slacking off from work. I don't know what.
So what made you stay in Sweden? Why did you not return? Because you got a wife and kids.
I think the main thing that made me stay there is the safety. The safety that I can walk the streets, and I was actually just talking about that now before I came here with my mother about it, and we were having a kind of argument discussion, But it's the safety thing, because she went to Sweden. She lived there for 2 years because they tried to immigrate there, but it was such a schlep, you know. It's the safety thing, and I tell my mother, so what do you say? And she says the same thing. It's the safety thing. The fact that you can walk down the street at 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock at night, 3 o'clock at night. You don't have to do this or do this. You know, you can just go and do whatever you want. The violence is. They have something like 10 murders a year.
Yeah.
What does South Africa have? 28,000, 30,000, something ridiculous.
It's crazy.
So that is a big thing, and that's what I. Now at my old age, I'm longing for South Africa again. You know, I want to come back. But I feel that it's just that one ingredient. Like, South Africa is such a beautiful place. The people are beautiful. Everything is beautiful about South Africa. Really, it is.
Yeah.
Sweden, the Swedish people are so weird and reclusive and cold. And then I come to South Africa and I'm walking down the streets of Stellenbosch and people are like, hey, how's it going? And you start talking. Like I started talking to you. That would never happen in Sweden. Never.
I have the same thing in Poland. Like the culture is very close. Where I was with my sister-in-law. She was thinking of getting a tattoo. We were in Warsaw, the capital. And I'm like, so where are we gonna go? And I think the internet wasn't working and mine wasn't working. So I'm like, fuck it. First guy we're walking past with a cool tattoo, I'm gonna stop him and ask him where did he get it. And she's like, no, you can't do that. I was like, why the fuck can I not? Guy walks past, I'm like, dude, sorry to bother you. And he's a bit like, what the fuck? And I'm like, dude, I dig your tattoo. Where did you get it? He's like, you wouldn't believe it. I'm actually I'm the manager of a tattoo parlor just up the road. And like, I remember her being so surprised that you can just randomly start talking to people in public transport or in a shopping center. Like, it's highly abnormal in certain.
But I bet she loves it though.
She loved it. She's like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
So I can only imagine, like, I've heard that Switzerland is terrible with that. It's even more like prim and proper. There's this friendliness, but there's no human connection between the people.
I've been in Switzerland, and I'll tell you, it's a lot better than Sweden. Sweden is fucking terrible, my bro. Sweden is the weirdest bunch of people I've ever met in my life. And not because they're assholes or anything like that. They're just very cold. They're very institutionalized. They follow, obviously they follow a set of rules because of being institutionalized. And they don't, hulle skryf nie van die pad af nie. You know, the very rules are rules. That's how they work. Rigid. Very rigid and very cold.
But what's weird is I just read before you came here that in front of Malmo football stadium, Zlatan Ibrahimovic has his statue and it just got fucking torn down because
fuck him. No, fuck him. I'll tell you why I say that. No, my wife is a music teacher. She organized that whole inauguration of the statue, the whole thing. She organized that. Obviously, Zlatan wanted to do the statue. Initially, they said, no, we're going to have the statue in Stockholm. Zlatan said, no, let's have it in Malmo, because that's where I'm from, Rosengård. Rosengård is like the poverty area of Malmo. Comparatively to South Africa, it's great. So you would walk in Rosengård and you go, maar wat is die fucking probleem hier? Hier is die probleem hier. But anyway, that is the bad area. So he grew up there and he said, no, I'm going to have it in Malmo, which is good. That's a good move. So he has it in Malmo. And my wife with her music, which is like a music, it's an after school program, but the state pays for it. So they have to apply for money, grants from the government to keep this program running. So it's an after-school thing, but it's music. So she said, we want to be there. So she calls her boss, like, high up guy. She's like, look, we want our kids to sing at his, the presentation of the statue, and Zlatan's going to be there, and the kids love him because these kids are from Rosengård, where he grew up.
Yeah.
And the kids are boiling. Not boiling, what's the word? They're exploding of excitement.
They're just loving it.
They're loving it. They prepare for 2 weeks. with the songs and everything. So the day comes, he's standing there, the woman presents him, blah, 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 and the children are on the side, so they're standing on the outskirts. But it's not a big thing. It's not a big thing. It's maybe 50 meters, the whole thing. So they're standing on the outside, big choir, and they sing for him. And he doesn't even look at them once. Right? So the kids are very upset after that. He's more concerned with signing contracts and not contracts. Signatures with the fans, like grown adults around him. En ek dink maar fuck jou, jy weet. Hierdie kinders spandeer al die hele tyd, and because he always talks about I'm just a normal guy.
Yeah.
If he
at
had
home
that,
with my kids and my wife.
Yeah, if he had that arrogant vibe about him from the start, I wouldn't have okay, yeah, it's to be expected. But he always gives this image of him being I'm just a normal guy. I'm from Rosengard, which is like the ghetto. And then the kids come and they we're gonna sing, and he doesn't even look at them once. I stood there and I was watching him intently, because I thought, if I'm gonna go after you, I'm gonna say, or I want to be able to say that you didn't look at them once, and I want to be right about that. And he didn't look. I was standing like this, looking at him. You do us, you bet. And he didn't look at them once. And the kids after that said, "We're done. We don't like him anymore."
Yeah.
Just because of that one little thing. And then he goes and buys shares from a Stockholm football club. And this is what caused the pull down of the statue there in Malmö. Because he's from Malmö, man.
No,
and then he goes and he buys.
It's like being an Arsenal player and then you buy shares in Man United.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Exactly. And I understand it in a sense, but that's the thing. You can only get away with bullshit for so long. It's eventually going to come back to you. And he's now become a mogul.
Yeah.
Like he's not just football; it's everything, man.
Yeah.
So.
But how would we be in these shoes? Like someone once said about Justin Bieber, because I'm obviously not a Justin Bieber fan.
Yeah.
But I did go to his concert just so my wife could drink and with her friend, and I could be the designated driver. But I thought, I do love music, so it'd be interesting to see Slipknot, Metallica, Rage Against the Machine, Eric Clapton,
I heard your
B.B. King.
Slipknot ringtone.
Yeah, and it's like that's the gigs that I've been to in the UK. It'd be quite interesting to see what Justin Bieber does at the Greenpoint Stadium. And I was like, as a production, well done. But someone said, imagine you were 21 in Justin Bieber's shoes. What would be your psychological well-being, and how would you be dealing with all of this? And I was like, dude, I'd be overdosing on women and party stuff.
You probably would.
I probably wouldn't be alive.
You'd be arrogant to say that you'd be better than him.
So
that's the problem there. It's too young to go into that world. That's the problem.
But even like Zlatan, I don't know, like maybe he was nervous on that day and then he didn't look over at your kids.
No.
If I can play devil's advocate.
No. I looked at him. He's not nervous. He's now become so. That's the thing. I don't mind fame. Of course, be famous, be rich, be successful, do what you want. I don't think people have a problem with that. They might say now you'd think that people have a problem with anybody who's rich. I don't think that's the issue here. He could have just looked up, man. It's not nervous. It's not nerves. He wasn't nervous. I looked at him and I watched him intently. There was no nerves. Guys were jumping, like big guys, adults in the front of the crowd, were jumping over each other to get to his.
Yeah.
Maybe he got caught up with just them. They took all his attention. Doesn't matter. Because he knew the kids were going to come sing. He knew this beforehand. He was let known of the fact. Yeah. And that was the problem.
So Zlatan, if you're watching, maybe reach out. We're gonna give you, get you to go talk to those kids.
Can we pause for a minute?
Sure.
I want to go to pee.
Please do, man. Please do.
Ski, medieval is best the world.
on to you?
What?
That little fan there, when you sit down, can you feel it?
No, I can't feel it.
But
Doesn't matter.
you're comfortable.
Yeah, I'm comfortable.
Dude, I'm just looking at all the other questions, and
Wait.
I think I'm gonna leave some of them because I wouldn't mind talking about some MMA stuff to you because I don't get many people that are super keen on it.
Yeah.
But number 3, experiencing new parts of the world. We've basically spoken about a little bit about why. What is your South African take living in Sweden? We've spoken a little bit about that, so I might skip that. What is your take as a South African in Sweden looking in on South Africa? Because you're obviously staying in Sweden. And you have now mentioned, and we are immigrating, and the primary reason for that is one, safety. I had another discussion today with someone about this, and I'm sure you'll have it a lot as well, but my big revelation this last 12 months has been people are dumb motherfuckers. People are dumb fucks. And sometimes you talk and they don't even hear what you're saying. Because I was having a conversation with someone about why we are leaving South Africa. And I said to them, one of the primary reasons is safety. For example, there were 2 attempted murders on 2 of my family members. And I wasn't even finished, and they were like, yeah, but it's dangerous everywhere. I was mugged in Holland and stuff. So I was like, so one, you were ready for an answer without considering. I wasn't even through the list. That's attempted murders. I'm not even talking about the people that I know that have been murdered. I know people that have been murdered for nothing. And when I talk about attempted murder, my brother was walking home, a car stopped next to him, 2 guys jumped out and just started stabbing him with knives for no reason. And then walking into the police station is not administering first aid, you have to pick him up and rush him to hospital. My brother down the road here, one night he woke up, someone was in the house, he went to go check, someone broke in, and then they tried to cut his throat off. And they missed it with they went to cut it like that, he went like that, and it just scratched him. Then I know a few people that have died in 1 year down the road here next to Renish Gulzide. They broke into my parents' house 7 times in 1 year. They've stolen my car keys and my shit from the beach. They've broken into our cars. And that's only me. That's never mind my friends, my family. And then people still want to be like, but it's dangerous everywhere. It's like, don't talk cuck to me.
Don't talk cuck.
When I was in Europe, I didn't know anyone that could say, I know someone that's been murdered or raped.
No.
Or if they did say that, they wouldn't say multiple incidents. And so for me, it's just like, that's a big part. Economically, it's really hard here. I can go overseas and within 3 to 9 months, economically, I'll be stable, I'll be in a good career path, and I'll be comfortable, and I could afford medical aid for my family, and I could send money back home to support my parents, and I can look after myself.
Yeah.
In South Africa, I've been here 5 years, and I'm still trying to get out of this hole of starting my own business. It's a fucking nightmare. So those 2 things. Financially, I can't look after my family like I want to, and it's just dangerous. I don't know what's going to happen at what time. Yeah. What's your perception, being a foreigner now, looking at South Africa?
Well, I think it's just that one reason alone. That one fucking thing about violence and your safety. That's enough to make me go. Then when I get there, I realize, Jesus, it's not only safer, but economically, it's so much easier. That comes secondary, you know. So just, if it wasn't for the violence and the fact that I feel threatened just walking out of my gate, or no, even when I'm inside of my yard, I would have stayed, regardless of the economic. You know, of course, it's easier economically somewhere else.
Yeah.
So what? I mean, there's a lot of South Africans that live here that know it will be easier somewhere else, but they stay here because they somehow maybe they're safe. That's for me was the key. Personally, that was the key thing. It was the safety thing. I was thinking, because my friend died, another guy who knows another guy got murdered, and then another guy, friend that of mine was in school, died because he was killed in a car accident. So that's maybe a little bit different, but he got killed. There's no public transport.
So he was drinking, driving?
No, he wasn't drinking, driving. He was taking a girl home. He was giving her a lift, and another guy swerved in outside of Stellenbosch actually, and he got killed. And she survived, and it's just a depressing story, But it's a build up. So I look at these two things.
It wasn't that Cool Bay.
No, it was he by the strawberry farm.
Mooiberger.
Yeah, that's a dangerous little section there where a lot of accidents.
Yeah, so if anyone listens, because I did some, I looked into my statistics the other day. So 55% or 50% of my listeners are South African, and about 40% are Americans now. And then the other 10% or 5% from scattered around. But we don't have public transport here. We do, but not for the average citizen. So there's a lot of drinking, driving happening here. A lot. And even me as a designated driver, because I don't drink at all, even if you offer sometimes to your friend, listen, I can drive you, they'll be like, this is this fucking Dutch pride of, I can handle my drink, I can drive home. And I'm like, dude, it's just, it's not acceptable. Where if you go to another country, I was fortunate enough to live in London, and I love it. You have your night buses, you have your variety of tubes. Even the late tube still goes until quite late, and even if it closes down, it's a 3-hour close down period, so you can catch the early morning one. It's like the whole infrastructure is set up that you don't drink and drive.
Exactly.
It's a fucking nightmare, and that's why I was at Justin Bieber. So I can make sure my wife can get fucking pissed up and get home safe. Anyway, so it's I assume it's quite rough. Any opinions on the power failures and blackouts and load shedding?
But before we get to that, I think the introduction of Uber here is great. I personally don't see any. Yeah, you can say, well, they're too cheap. It's like, no, they're actually bringing down things to normal. They're cutting out the middleman to an extent, I suppose. I'm not an expert.
Yeah, the existing taxi services are exorbitantly expensive.
Yes.
Like, so Uber, I think it's balancing it out. I remember being in London, and then Uber came in, and all the black cabs were like, oh my God, you're taking away our livelihoods. I'm like, listen here, you fuck. Once I climb into your car, it's £5, and you haven't driven anywhere.
Exactly.
It's like
and cutting out the corruption.
So Uber, listen, I don't agree with the company and their model. Like if you go,
I don't understand what.
So if you go look at
an expert,
the CEO of Uber, there's a lot of controversy. I think he's actually resigned, or he got fired, or he stepped away because he was just causing a lot of shit. So go look a little bit into Uber controversy. There's a lot. There's a lot of rapes and crime happening with Uber drivers that are. I do think the company needs to have a better veto policy on who are representing them. But as a whole, I do think it's a positive thing that has happened where.
But that's kind of normal growing pains, though, don't you think? Of such a thing. It's new. This whole digital fucking world is a new thing. All of us, anyway.
I just don't like when bad shit happens because it's too expensive to veto people. But then the owner of the company or the president is a fucking billionaire. You can't say, well, you're a billionaire and I can't afford human resources to go through a thorough screening.
That's
if
true.
It was a poor company that was struggling to stay afloat, it'd be like, listen, yeah, fair enough. So that argument falls away for me then. But Uber, I do think it's fantastic. I see a lot going on here, and I think it's unbelievable what it's doing for South Africa specifically.
Absolutely. I think it's needed.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's going to have...
Because our government bought billions of rands of trains that don't fit onto the railway. I don't know if you read that or heard of that.
I'm not surprised, but yeah.
So, I don't know if it was part of the Guptas. You know the Guptas?
The Guptas, yes.
So what happened was, I didn't know this because I wasn't living here. So let's say two things that happened with public transport. So our government bought buses like you would have in the Europe or in the UK
And they burn it all down.
for billions of rands, and then the taxis burned it down.
Yeah, I remember that. Actually.
Because they were like, you are stealing our jobs. So that's the one thing. Then they bought new trains for billions of rands. Then the trains don't fit onto our railway. It's too wide or too narrow. So now there's something like $50 billion or 50 billion rands worth of train standing somewhere that can't be used. So they did try to do it, but then the wrong fucker, I don't know. So
how is that? But how does that even? This is what makes me skeptical. How do you buy trains that just doesn't fit on a track? You don't do that kind of transaction without knowing exactly. Could they be that incompetent?
I do believe...
Or is there some hidden agenda? Yeah?
I believe there's obviously a hidden agenda. Someone knew somewhere. But my experience being back in Africa, the level of incompetence at high levels is massive. So I can believe that someone is that incompetent.
So you're not steenkool?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't want to go...
What's a kak hoor in your leven?
Well, I did read some report that coal that gets extremely wet becomes like fucking... Anyway, dude, incompetence is rife in Africa.
But is it incompetence because of corruption?
No,
So they use the incompetence as an excuse?
No.
Like,
It's
they play dumb. Like this, the charcoal or the steenkool is not. I mean, come on, I don't buy that for a fucking minute.
Yeah, listen, we're not going to go down that route. All I'm saying is my business, my own business that I've got has been designed to help people from disadvantaged communities into employment and hopefully, ideally, sustainable employment.
Yeah.
And I have been taken aback with a low level of education from a lot of people. The culture is massively different. Like if you have a discussion on East and West, we assume that we know that the East does things this way and the West does it this way. Then we know that communism, capitalism, we know that Eastern Europe versus Western Europe. Now, the way the African culture is set up, there is a general... The education isn't that good. There is the language barrier is definitely there. There's an essence of chaos and not following rules and not even checking what the rules are prior to undertaking a project and making sure everyone's on the same page. And I work day to day with the black culture, and I'm not saying the black culture is less educated. Like, please understand me. Yeah, I don't want to go.
No, but just numbers wise, this is not a racist thing.
I know, but I don't want to go there now.
I know, but
we can do that once I've left Africa. At the moment, I'm still here, and I'm still trying to do the thing. So, what I'm saying is, I've seen massive incompetence this last 4 or 5 years in Africa, and a decision like that I can see, like Eskom for example, or power stuff, I can see a lot of incompetence as opposed to corruption. I do see a lot of corruption in that, and then sometimes a combination of both. You would be surprised how dumb motherfuckers we have here. And as I say, all humans around the world are dumb fucks.
But are we talking about, when we talk about lack of education, I don't know, because I know after I left matric, it was a couple of years or something like that the curriculum changed. So the whole education system changed.
Yeah.
Where we had one of the best educational systems in the world, apparently. I mean, we could compete with anybody. We weren't the best, but all I know is we had a respectable educational system.
No, it's fucked.
So but I know it's changed after 94, somewhere onwards towards, So when you say lack of education, are these people who just doesn't have education, or is it people who are matriculated, but the standard has been lowered so much that they're still not sufficient?
This is
That's what I'm wondering.
Listen, let me go for it in a small way. I'm not going to go too deep into it. But the example I normally use, and there's two examples. Let's say there's the car example, and then there's the tertiary education example. So me, I have a car and I have a driving license. my driving experience didn't start at the age of 18 or 20 or 22. As a kid, since I was born, I've always driven around in a car. I understand the way a car moves and stops. And I had a mom and dad that from a young age, they would make me sit on their lap and maybe play around. And I think I could drive a car by the age of 12. So I was taught by my parents. Now, my parents weren't first generation car owners. My grandparents also had cars. So they were taught by their parents. So by the time I drive a car, I'm a third or fourth generation car owner and user. And I see a lot of people now, they do have their license, maybe not under legal, and maybe the car isn't roadworthy, but they're first time users. So there's a lot that is gone missing in the process. Now the thing with the tertiary education is, I train a lot of people, and I say to them in culture, some black cultures, education is not that important. And they're like, what the fuck do you mean? I'm like, how many university degrees in your family? And they're like, none. So I'm like, okay, let's take my family. My grandfather had a university degree. My grandmother had a university degree. My mother has a university degree. My father has 2 university degrees. They had 4 children who all have university degrees. All my cousins have university degrees. Now, listen, now this discussion goes into, but you guys were privileged. So I'm like, cool. But you guys, some of you are from Malawi, some of you are from Zimbabwe, some of you are from other countries where you were the privileged people. And you don't have university degrees. And I'm talking about the average person. So... And if you grow up in a family like mine that's privileged, where a decent educational background has been around for a while, general conversations on a day-to-day basis is on a certain level. And then that trains your brain in a certain way. So then your interaction with the world and society becomes guided. And that's what I mean with a lack of education, is that there's a certain way of thinking and approaching the world that's maybe slightly, there's a small disconnect. But it's different societies, different cultures. Again, this is quite tricky because I'm the most left person in the world when it comes to the black culture. I grew up with, I don't like it, but I just got raised with people from Senegal, Rastafarians, Muslims, Christians, whatever. So I have arguments for both pro and con, and
but that's the only reasonable fucking stance to take. There's pros and there's cons.
There's historical factors that get in there, but there are also cultural factors that go in there. It's a tricky place. If you were black, I would be more comfortable having this conversation. Unfortunately, Afrikaans white guys having this conversation is not going to work. And I don't want. We don't have enough time to go down this rabbit hole.
Well, I have no time. If you want to talk about it,
but I want to still get to the fucking MMA stuff.
I don't have any schedule, so we talk about shit. I mean, this is exactly why this format is so popular.
And I think we're gonna talk about the other stuff a little bit later, but or we might not talk about it, but I want to slowly try and get this conversation to MMA.
Let's go there. Let's go there right now. Why not?
Because I've been into MMA. My brothers got me into MMA. I would say that was before I went to Poland. And the way they got me into MMA, they showed me an Anderson Silva.
Oh, legend.
Some DVD of something like 20 of his fights. And then the big one was the 2 fights against Chael Sonnen. And the one where he beat Chael Sonnen in the last round with a triangle choke, I think. That really got me into...
Can't remember.
That got me into MMA. And that was, I think, in about... I went to Poland in 2012. So I've been about 7 years into it. And then, and it was at the peak of Anderson Silva. Shortly afterwards, he lost. He broke his fucking leg on his comeback.
That was nasty. against what's his name?
Chris Weidman.
Yeah.
And I was also lucky then in that transition to be there prior to Conor McGregor becoming huge, and then in the process of him becoming huge, and in the process of him becoming a fucking retard.
Like he's now, complete. Yeah. Let's
So,
not go into that.
and there's not many people that, and a lot of people are like, yeah, I like MMA, and then you start putting names out, and they're like, and then you can see like, oh my god, you don't know what you you don't know MMA.
No.
So, but you said you from the Ken Shamrock days. How did you get into
I
MMA?
can confidently say that I know MMA. I might not know that because I've never been like that on any topic, because I don't think it's necessary to know every little detail, like what he eats and how fucking tall he is and what he weighs. Like, it's not important. I know the sport. I'm a fan of the sport. So I can confidently say that I know the fucking sport. If you talk to me about MMA, I can tell you who's a good fighter and who's not, and who's gonna be a good fighter and who's not. Of course, occasionally I get it wrong, because the game changes constantly. The evolution from Ken Shamrock to now is amazing, and even especially for the woman now as well. What's that chick's name? The Russian chick.
Oh, Shevchenko.
Yes.
Dude.
And she's the first, for me personally, she's the first woman that I actually want to watch. Because before that, Ronda Rousey, she was alright. Because she was the first. So I didn't have anything to compare it with. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey. But now I see how shit she actually was compared to this girl now. And she's a assassin, man. She's fucking amazing.
I would love to see Shevchenko and Amanda Nunes. I don't know if that can happen because of the weight. Amanda Nunes is a badass chick. I think she'll fuck me up. Like in real life, if I had to fight Amanda Nunes, I think she'll knock me out. I think she'll fuck me up within like 2 minutes. I think if I can survive 2 minutes with that chick, then fucking well done. Because
that's kind of a turn on for me. It's like a woman who can just kick my ass. I don't know, it turns me on.
Dude, I think she'll kick half the men in the world, because I think she fights at 135 pounds, which that's with a weight cut.
Yeah.
So you can imagine she's probably, let's say, 10 to 20%. So let's say she's at about 150, 160 maybe.
What's that like? That's like 60 kilos.
Let's say that's about 65. No, let's say 150. That's about 70 something.
That's quite heavy.
So let's say around about 70 kilos before she does the weight cut. Dude, 70-year-old lady 70-kilogram lady with skills will fuck you up. Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. So she's badass, but I think a more well-rounded martial artist is Shevchenko.
I think,
and they fought, and I actually thought that Amanda Nunes lost that fight.
Well, hang on. Has Amanda and Shevchenko, have they fought?
Yeah.
Really?
They had a 5-round fight that was super boring. And the only reason that Amanda Nunes won is that she took it down in the last round. Yeah. And you know, with the judging, if you get a takedown, then I can go double check it.
But I didn't realize they fought.
They did.
Because of the weight, the weight difference.
Yeah, but Amanda Nunes has become a bit bigger this last couple of years.
It's a machine, yeah.
But dude, the way she fucked up Ronda Rousey.
Jesus, bro. Just fucked her up, right? I was surprised. I didn't think that would, But I suppose that's where the evolutionary moment came in.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm the next level.
And Amanda Nunes Shevchenko won. That was in 2017.
It's not even that long ago.
September 2017, 5 rounds decision going towards Amanda Nunes. And I remember that it was super boring. And now it would be quite interesting.
It would be, definitely. Personally, it's kind of this is exactly another thing that will trigger a lot of people. But because men are so athletic, they're interesting to watch. It's
like women's football. Exactly, it's like, listen,
exactly. I'm not trying to piss on women, for fuck's sake, It's just, and any woman with her right mind understands this. She understands this. Like I speak to my wife, and she completely understands this. She says, "Yeah, woman football because of the physicality of it. That's the only thing, not because of personality or intelligence or anything like that. It's just the physicality. It makes it more exciting. And when you watch two heavyweights fight, two men, big fucking, because we all are essentially of the human race, right?
Yeah.
So you watch the biggest two possible humans, woman or man, fight. That's what you want to see, right? So you see these two big guys, 150, 40 kilos, whatever, and they just banging it out. You can't get that with two women doing it. You can't. I'm not suggesting that two women can't bang it out.
Yeah.
But it's just not that exciting. And like you say, it's the same with the football. It's the same with any bloody sport.
Yeah, and I would even go further. The lighter the weight class, the less entertaining it is, or less exciting.
Yeah.
Just for the fact that this whole thing of the smaller you are, the less knockout power you have. So anyone under 145, 145 lower, generally doesn't have a knockout. No. Or if it does, it's quite rare. But
even though you're more athletic at that smaller weight,
they're way more advanced. Their center of gravity is like Messi. Ninja, the shit that they do, but the regularity that it goes towards a decision. Where the higher the weight class, the more regularly you will see a knockout. And unfortunately, we're fucked up. We like seeing that stuff. And at heavyweight. But a boring fight is two heavyweight guys not going at it. I think Derek...
Did you see that fight between Derek Lewis
and Francis Ngannou?
Yeah, what the hell was going on there?
So because I read up quite a lot about it. Francis Ngannou came out and said, because he fought Stipe Miocic, and he had that 5 round with him, and he struggled because Stipe is just awesome, but he also fought the right thing. And he said his confidence was gone. So after that fight, he had zero confidence in himself, and he took a massive knock, and he was terrified of losing. And especially against Derek Lewis, at any moment.
Any moment he can put you out. Because he is a boring fighter. Derek Lewis is the most boring fucking fighter.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden,
he'll be losing 25 minutes. And
that's what he does. Yeah. He loses most of the fight. And then all of a sudden, in the last 10 seconds or 20 seconds, he just gives you that power punch and you're done.
Yeah, so that's what happened there. But heavyweight fighters, I'm quite a big Cain Velasquez fan. I thought he's done. He is done. He went to WWE now. Oh. So, but he was my... I liked his style.
Smaller guy.
He's not ripped.
Kind of like Fedor.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, Fedor was something like that. Small guy, but he fucking kicked your ass, man.
I am quite a big Stipe Miocic fan. I also like he's well-rounded. Daniel Cormier, he's good. Yeah. He's probably one of the nicest guys on MMA.
He's a nice guy.
But I wouldn't say it's my favorite style to watch.
No, definitely not. No.
Then who's the other guy that Verdum? I quite like
Verdum, yeah.
I quite like his stuff. Ngannou is always like, Jesus, if he's gonna knock you out.
I think he's the best thing that heavyweight has right now. Right now, it's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
The heavyweight division is shitty, and I think Ngannou is the best we got because he's this big fucking guy. He's athletic. And he will do us for you. He will knock you. I mean, I saw him knock one guy. I can't remember who it was, but he lifted the guy's feet.
It's Alistair Overeem.
And Alistair is a big guy.
Dude, he's huge. He's
260.
They have to weigh in at 260, which is about 125 kilos, I think. They weigh in about 125 kilos of fucking muscle.
Yes.
And 8% body fat.
And he lifted that guy off his feet with that punch.
John Jones, what do you think?
John Jones, I don't know if I personally am getting caught up in the media of the shit.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to do that. Yeah. I think he's a fucking phenomenal fighter, and he is so dangerous because he's he's tall and he's bony and he's athletic, and that is a shitty thing to do. That's why Anderson Silva was like that. He's this tall, thin, bony guy, but very athletic, and that shit is dangerous to deal with. I mean, I fought personally in my school, just fighting with, being a normal teenager. I fight with these tall guys. When I fight with a small, stocky guy, it's easy. You can wrestle him. But a tall guy like that, with his bony, they're dangerous, man. They're fucking dangerous. No, they are.
But he's quite strong as well.
And he's strong, of course. He's athletic. He's very strong. But I just don't see anybody having an answer to him just yet.
Yeah. I just don't like the guy, unfortunately.
Because what? Because of the controversy of
not necessarily
of
the controversy. Whenever he talks, okay, I can't ignore the fact that I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's a lot of the podcasts that I listen to are people from the sport. They used to compete, and that the way they talk about this guy is that he's this two-faced motherfucker that does lines of coke and fucking sleeps around, blah, 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 blah. And then as soon as the camera's on, it's all about God and Jesus and this and that.
PR.
And when he talks, you can just see the bullshit and the fakeness. And it's like, he goes onto Twitter.
I've never been a fan though, yeah.
He goes onto Twitter, and I've seen some of the stuff and the videos that he posts. And it's like, dude, you are the baddest guy in the world. You don't need to prove nothing to no one.
Yeah.
I don't know why you have this chip on your shoulder. Even like no one can compete with you, and you still have this chip on your shoulder.
Well, let me give my thoughts on that specifically. I think that because I've been following MMA for so long, this is the odd thing. I'm not an expert on it.
Yeah.
I am an expert on a good fighter, but I'm not an expert on the details.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to be. You just watch, you're part of a game.
Yeah.
And I watched him, and there was just so much shit revolving around him. Like the fucking, if it wasn't him doping or then he's in the media for beating his wife or something. I don't know. There's always some cuck going on with a guy, and I just shut him out. I just like, yeah. So when you tell me like certain things, I'm like, oh, okay, he's like that, or he's like that. I have no idea what the guy is. I'm not interested in him because of that drama.
Yeah.
All that drama and all that bullshit. I just see it as marketing. So I shut down. I see it as marketing, and I just go, whatever. He's a good fighter. When I watch him fight.
Yeah.
By all means, I watch him fight, and he's a good fighter.
He's probably a big argument is that he's the best ever.
I wouldn't say he's the best ever. Personally, I wouldn't say he's the best ever by a long shot.
Yeah.
But I would say he's fucking good.
Who would you say is the best ever? And this is a difficult thing. There's always normally a top 3, top 5.
Let's look. Okay, whoa. Let's look now. He's currently the champion.
He's light heavyweight champion.
Heavyweight. So it's light heavyweight, right?
Yeah.
You see, this is where.
And that's why you have the pound for pound.
Yeah, pound for
where
pound.
you like, okay, let's imagine that they're all at the same body weight. Who's going to beat who? And he's number 1 pound for active fighters right now. But then there's arguments for Anderson Silva. There's arguments for GSP. There's arguments for Fedor.
Exactly. Like the weight thing, yeah, I can get lost in that. But like who's where in the weight and what, pound for pound and all that. I would not give it to. I would definitely give it to Anderson Silva above John Jones. Maybe it's just because of that fact that John Jones has all this bullshit around him.
Yeah.
And that distracts me from his true skill. And he actually has the true skill. But I get distracted by all this bullshit, even though I don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
But I don't pay attention. It's an active choice not to pay attention to it because it's there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, yes, kyk al die kak. I don't want to deal with that. And that makes me shut him out. Even though I think he's a phenomenal fighter. I'm not interested. He's not very sportsman. South Africa is a very sportsman-like country. Not just sports, but sportsman-like.
We grew up with the British culture of rules and manners
Exactly.
and being a gentleman and behaving and etiquette.
Precies.
So if you want to be great, you got to be great on all levels.
Exactly. You can't.
And
just
if you're
be
not great
fucking
on all
talent.
levels, you got to learn how to lie and play the PR game.
Exactly. And he's playing, in my mind, I think, what kind of PR game is he playing? Because it feels like a PR game to me. I don't know what it is,
Dude,
but it feels like a PR game.
He's not a... How can I say? He had a drinking driving incident where he crashed into another lady.
Yeah.
I speak under correction, but if my memory serves me right, he crashed into another lady, so he ran away. He returned to get a lot of cash and I think drugs that were lying around. Now, the lady that he crashed into was pregnant, and I think he didn't even help her. He just got his shit and bailed before the police came, and he was found guilty for that. Double check that, I'm not 100% sure. Then he came back, he was suspended, or he was blah blah blah, and then he came back and it was doping, and then he came back and it was fucking another doping, and if you look at a lot of people that train with him, there's a lot of shit always around him. There's always a lot of shit around him, and a lot of people like him, a lot of people don't like him. So I just think if you compare him to GSP, George St. Pierre, I love George St. Pierre.
Yeah.
I personally think he's gay. I don't know why, because he just looks amazing all the time, and generally the gay guys want to look amazing all the time, and just the way that he holds himself. I'm just out of a curiosity point of view, but I love this guy, the way he talks, the way his brain works. If I listen to him on Joe Rogan, I think they had a 2.5 hour podcast, and I listened to it from beginning to end. I find him a fascinating human. Even if you look at his story, he used to...
Van Damme.
Exactly. Yeah. The way he talks and the stuff. Now, if you look at his story, he used to be a garbage removal guy. He used to drive on the back of a truck in Canada, jump off, black bins into the thing. Yeah. That's where he came from. Yeah. So we can maybe segue to Conor McGregor, but that's the same story of a guy that literally had nothing. Yeah. He was a plumber. He was fucking scratching around in people's feces, and then he became this guy. And I love stories like that. Yeah. But what's your gripe with Conor McGregor?
Well...
and it's a big one.
But this is the thing, I'm sitting on video, and I have to get my, like, you have free floating ideas. Most people have. You have free floating ideas constantly, and I can see things, but I can't articulate it well. So I'm going to try and articulate this as best as I can, to get all my facts, to state my case. Like Conor McGregor, I liked him in the beginning. I did. I think most people did. I think most people liked him. He had this confidence, even if you didn't like that kind of bombastic, in your face kind of shit. You still liked him though. You either envied it because you didn't have it, or you have it and you can relate to it. But he had something, right? And he even sounded intelligent. Like when you would talk, when you would be in an interview, he'd sound somewhat intelligent. Like there's thought behind his, his stances on whatever.
Because there's a different personality if he's on stage in front of a crowd versus if he's in a normal interview with someone. Exactly. Then you'll see these.
But they all do that. They all do that, and we all as fans expect that. So we expect a bit of showmanship, right? I like all that shit. That I want to fuck him up. He's a cunt. I knew that wasn't really him, but you go with it. You go with it and you enjoy it because it's entertainment. Yeah. It's gladiatorial shit going on here, right? So that's why MMA is successful, because it's gladiatorial and it comes from, I don't know, the Romans, wherever, even before that. So we love that kind of stuff. But then something happened. He knocked out, what's his name?
Jose
Aldo. And he got so fucking rich. And it's not his fault. Well, it's his fault. But not just his fault. It's the whole machine got hold of him. The whole capitalist machine got hold of him. And he got signed with Disney, and he got signed with I don't know who else.
Burger King.
But yeah, he became massive, and I think that's what broke him. Because when you get that powerful or that famous, the saying goes, like what's the saying, that power corrupts, and massive power corrupts absolutely. I don't know what the saying is, but it's something like that. Eventually, you will get corrupted. And I think he got corrupted, and he got carried away with his fame and his power. And he's just a normal Irish guy. He's not. I don't think he's super intelligent in any way. I think he's decent intelligence. At least that's what I got from him from the beginning. And then he turned into this monster, this fucking monster, where he's hitting, and it's not. I can't argue and say, "Oh, it's just media." No, I saw him punch an old man in a bar.
Yeah.
There was a video of it.
Do you think that's real?
Of course, it's real. Why wouldn't it be real? Because,
I don't know. Like when it comes to celebrities and this PR machine that you talk about, I question a lot of stuff.
But there's actually
But I looked at that footage. I'm like, this is the world's biggest fucking dick.
Yeah.
Punching a guy that's not even looking at you. Just punching random people on the streets wrong. Yeah. I like what Michael Bisping says. Like, you can't just walk around punching people on the street. Because he used to do that.
Exactly.
He went to jail for it. And he's like, you can't do that. But then you look at this video, I'm like, ooh.
So there's two things in my mind, right? There's either he's a puss and he punched that poor old man because he didn't want to drink his proper 12. He sells that whiskey called proper 12. That's one possibility. Or, which is also very possible, is that, and you're an idiot if you think it's not possible, because it could be a marketing stunt.
It could have been.
Yeah, because it's the long game. They turn him out. They turn him into this kind of villain, and who knows, the next big fight, which they're already talking about. I don't know if it's going to happen.
No, it's booked. Donald Cerrone.
No, not Donald. Donald he's kind of just the
warm up.
The warm
tune-up fight.
Yeah. Because this is what they do, Look what he did. Look what Conor did with Floyd Mayweather. Yeah. How much did that catch him? That was his biggest payday ever, and that's boring. Most people don't really care about that. No, we don't.
They say he made about $100 million from that.
Dis fucking baie geld.
And he was about 26 or 28 at that time when he made $100 million for one fight.
And we all know that marketing is psychology. I studied marketing at Boland College, and I was disgusted by the tactics that marketing uses just to get you hooked onto something.
I did a short course in marketing management at Boland College, and then when I was at university, we did one subject of industrial psychology, which was consumer behavior. Yeah. And you can see there's a bunch of fucks that know how to get you. What I liked about Conor McGregor initially was when he lost to Nate Diaz, the humility with which he lost.
Yes.
I was always like, this guy's cool and interesting and fun.
And he handled it
but
well.
I became a Conor McGregor fan after he lost to Nate Diaz, and he said, listen, the way he lost, I was like, I love that. And then he went to go train, and he got quite quiet. Yeah. He was just like, I'm training now, and I'm coming back. I'm training, I'm coming back. And when he fought Floyd Mayweather, I was like, "What? Fucking why not? This is quite interesting." I remember being like,
"We all know what that is." It's just the.
I know, thing. But there was. If you go back and you go look at all the podcasts and interviews of MMA experts and boxing experts or people that knew Conor McGregor, they were like, "Listen, this is bullshit. 99.9%, 100% like bullshit. But there's one punch." And there was one punch.
He did pretty well.
There was one punch, and it could have. So I watched that, like, dude, whatever.
Yeah.
It raised the game for MMA. Yeah. All the MMA fighters are making more money. I was super excited when he came back for Khabib. I'm a massive Khabib fan. But since the Khabib, like the whole dolly thing where he threw that, I think that was a big marketing thing that went sideways.
You mean the water bottle shit?
No, the water bottle was at Nate Diaz. When he came back to fight Khabib, he flew in and then...
To Russia?
No. It was somewhere in America. I don't know if it was in New York or in Las Vegas. But all the fighters that were at this card were on the bus, and then and he came and he picked up this thing and he threw it at the bus. Now I think that was a big marketing thing that everyone was involved in the UFC and everything. I think Conor just got carried away in the moment.
Yeah.
I think it would have been great, but since then I was like, slowly there's been this decline of Conor McGregor, and it's the telephone incident, the mobile phone where he smashed that, and the this and the that, and there's these rape allegations now, and
which is real, by the way. If you watch other YouTubers who actually do independent research, who I stand behind. You can argue with me and say, well, they're not fucking legitimate, or they're not that.
Can you give names of YouTubers that you
Jason Burmas,
okay.
The guy who did Loose Change of 9/11. You know him? Big guy. If you want, like Zeitgeist.
Yeah.
But even better than that is Loose Change. It's specifically on 9/11. He did a documentary on that. He did it himself, and it's fucking brilliant. If you walk away from that thinking, nah, I don't believe this guy, then you're stupid, in my opinion, or you. No, really, because that's the thing. It's not even.
But I just love the way you put that on.
Yeah, but you are because that's how that's the situation that we're in. That the propaganda has split us so far apart. You get the one camp and the one camp, but all you need to do is just investigate a little. If there was genuine science going on and debates and things, and of intelligent people, far more intelligent than us, talking about things, then that's a different dynamic. Like they're talking and they're exchanging facts, blah blah blah. You see, I can see it in my mind, but I can't articulate it. But hopefully, you can understand what I'm trying to say. Is intelligent people that talk about things, and there's a constant back and forth. Where if you just listen to the media, which you've probably done, not you, but I'm saying general public, you buy into the whole story of 9/11, let's say. Because why wouldn't you? I did. Everybody did. But then I started thinking something's wrong. And that's all you need. Just something's not right. I'm going to do... Hell, you just watched that one movie of that guy, Jason Burmas. He's an American guy. He did an hour, 2 hours, I don't even know how long it was, and he ripped that shit apart. And that is just one documentary of hundreds that are out there. So if you are willing to listen to us sitting here, if you are not swayed on the 9/11 thing, because the 9/11 thing changed. I know we digressing a bit into a different area here now, but it's important. 9/11 changed the whole scene of the world, not just America. It changed everything. And if you want to know what really went on there, then you just have to do some research. And people don't want to do research anymore. They want to just hear the soundbite or from the media. Or they cannot possibly believe that the media can deceive them. And then if you say, but the media is deceiving them, they say, but why would they do that? And that's where the crux of the whole thing is the media doesn't even know that they're involved in the cover-up. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't take a whole bunch of people to be part of a conspiracy to make it work. It just takes 3 or 4 people to manipulate the situation. That's how conspiracies work, and that's how cover-ups work.
Yeah.
People in high positions make a few decisions, and the rest are just doing their job.
Yeah.
And then you can pull off anything you want to. So if you really are interested in the way the world works, start with 9/11. I don't know how we got that now. We were talking about Conor McGregor, and I was.
You were saying that this guy that did the documentary on 9/11 did stuff on research on Conor McGregor.
And he's also into MMA, and he covered Conor McGregor and the rape allegations. Jason Burmas. He's on YouTube. You can find him there. He doesn't do what you do. He doesn't do podcasts. He just does personal recordings, like he would walk and talk or something like that. So I'm not advertising him in any way.
I would do. I always think about doing like personal recordings of my thoughts or feelings or my mind, but I've done a couple, and I find it awkward looking at the camera and talking.
It is awkward, yeah.
I can do it, but it just it doesn't capture the feeling. So I might at some point this year, if I can just periodically get a friend to sit behind the camera and just someone sitting there and listening, not even talking, then I will start doing some of those things. So that is in the pipeline, because I have a lot of thoughts and feelings and opinions. But generally, as a podcaster, I want your thoughts and feelings, and it's not so much about mine. Anyway, but let's get on to Conor McGregor.
But just to add to that, before we go to Conor, like I told you before, I think the idea that you have by just talking to people, random people, is a fucking winning combination. It's people are dying for that. We are tired. I will say to the camera, like, people are tired of listening to our chosen idols that are not chosen by us. It's chosen by other people. It's the government tells you, or whoever, the media or anybody tells you, this is who you should idolize. Listen to this guy. He's an expert. It's like, no. You come and you talk to normal people. I'm nobody. I'm just a guy on the street. And that is what people want. I think that's what people are hungry for. I do believe that. But unfortunately, that format will take time. But I do believe people are hungry of just to listen to anybody they can relate to, instead of these fucking people who are up there earning hundreds of millions of dollars trying to tell you what life is about. I mean, what do they know? You know? I don't understand. They don't even live in the same goddamn...
I listened to a Kevin Hart thing the other day, and he's like, I haven't done grocery shopping in more than 3 years, counting.
Exactly.
You can't remember the last time you went into the shop to buy milk.
Exactly.
And it's nice. So I think it's just, are you listening to people for entertainment purposes, or are you listening to them for self-enrichment? And I think from the self-enrichment point of view, there's only so much you can take from these people. And they play the part as well. Like Ariel Awani, I don't know if you know him. Ariel Awani, MMA fighting, and he does also a lot of investigative journalism for mixed martial arts. And he had a podcast with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. And it was quite interesting to see that this was I would recommend anyone to go watch it. Dwayne Johnson also got a nice story if you go deeper into it. And he said there that he's consciously stayed away from podcasts, and he now slowly wants to go a little bit more into it and show it. And whenever you see Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, I actually saw him in real life when they came to Cape Town, WWF, still back in the day. Yeah. Whenever you see him, he's got the people's eyebrow, and he's this super confident guy. Yeah. And on this podcast, you could see that he's just a normal guy, no pretenses. You could see that he's got some insecurities. He's got his own stuff. And that's what I love about podcasts, is that you get to see the real guy. Because when at the moment, Jumanji, you see Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart, and they do their bits and pieces everywhere, and it's joke.
Did they do the second Jumanji together?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you don't get to see the real person, and it's fascinating to see a little bit of The Rock, the real guy. Yeah. And I think podcast does that, but I think the image that they give off, you can't learn from the image that they give off. If they were real, and that's I think why Joe Rogan has got such a big following, because he is successful. But he's real. What you see is what you get. Like, there's no pretense. Real. He doesn't fucking behave it for the followers. Yeah.
He's intelligent, but he's not pretentious intelligence. You get people who are very intelligent, very highly intelligent, and their intelligence, it's not even their own fault, has disconnected them from normal people. Where Joe Rogan he's got that perfect balance. Between he asks the right questions, he's not an idiot, he's not super intelligent, but he's intelligent, and I just feel like that fucking guy has nailed it. He's nailed it, and he knows what to ask. I don't know. I just think the guy's brilliant, and
guy's brilliant. He's brilliant. I don't look at how that cat is passed out. I don't love everything. This is the thing now also with Joe Rogan.
Of course not.
I don't obviously like everything. So if someone looks at me and they're like, listen, I don't like everything of Joe Rogan. And lately back in the day, he had an agenda, and he's admitted it. He had an agenda with he wants everyone to smoke weed and stuff. Now he's a bit like, dude, if you want, if you don't want. I watched the Max Holloway. I listened to the Max Holloway podcast, and there was this point of Max Holloway like, no, I don't smoke weed. I've never smoked weed. And I think Joe Rogan might have in the past. Oh shit. In the past, he might have tried to convince Max Holloway to, and he was just like, no, dude, like if you don't want to, then whatever. So. But I think the reason why his podcast worked is, again, there's this desire for people just to be real, and especially people our age.
Yeah.
You know, and I love the evolution. And the reason Joe Rogan started was, he said, like, just learning by himself. And it started off with MMA questions on Twitter, I think. People were posting questions, and him and Eddie Bravo and a few guys were just answering questions, and it developed from there, and it became this educational thing for him. And that's what I've got, and I find it more inspiring sometimes listening to normal people, how they go about their life, than some famous person.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
So getting back to the rape allegations from Conor McGregor, because that's what we were on.
Well, I would tell you, just straightforward, without fucking around too much, I think he's guilty. I think he did it. I mean, what guy goes, he rapes the girl, right? Let's just say, this is all my opinion for the record. He rapes this girl. This is the story. He rapes this girl in front of other people.
What?
Yeah. And what I think happened is this girl voluntarily went with him, of course. I mean, this is a rich guy. Famous. Why wouldn't you? As a woman, you go and a woman as a man, whatever. But in this case, this woman. She goes, this person, let's say, instead of putting it into a woman or man guy, just to keep everything safe, that she goes because this guy's famous, and she goes up. Everything is fucking honky dory. They go up to this penthouse. He starts probably touching her, and she at some point decides that this is enough, this is going too far, because this is where the evidence, this is speculative from my side, right? But the evidence from the point where she got raped, she had a tampon stuck into her cavities that they had to surgically remove. This is proven, right? Proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. According to this guy who did these documentaries, and I don't think he will lie about it. Of course, the fanboys will say, yeah, like, oh, how do you know he's right or she's right or whatever. I can just go with my gut and what I see from him and how I've seen him personally, just looking at him, how he's deteriorated. He's deteriorated his health, his face, how he looks. He's unhealthy. He's not Conor, the Conor we know.
Yeah.
Any guy who with some kind of ability to read people will see that something's off. And he raped this fucking woman. That's my opinion. He raped this woman, and the next day he goes to jail. This is on record. You can look this up if you want to. Anybody who's interested. He goes to the jail, to the police station, and tells them, like, look, it was consensual. That's what he does. He says, look, this was all consensual. With his lawyer. Yeah, of course. He goes with his lawyer. This was consensual. Who does that? Who goes to the police station to say that our fucking engagement last night was consensual? If it was consensual, it was consensual. Why do you feel you need to go to the police station? And I do understand that there are some women who will try and capitalize on that, on famous people, because they do that. That women shouldn't, or we shouldn't assume that women are. That's the problem now. We think, women can't do anything wrong. This is what they do. Like if men rape, which is nasty, but women on the other side go and they fucking do this kind of extortion shit, where they will take him for everything he's got. But I don't think this is the case. This woman got raped. She's scared. And Conor McGregor, even after he went to jail and said, this was consensual, blah, 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 he offered her $1 million. to keep quiet about it. Now, then came Jason Burmas, the guy that I told you about. He came out and said, he's not the only guy reporting it, by the way. There's a few other guys on YouTube reporting on it, but he's the main guy because he's good. He's good at what he does, and this is what he does. He's saying, well, we hope that she doesn't take the $1 million, which she didn't. She denied it. But now, obviously, Connor will come back and say, oh, wow, I'll give you fucking $5 million. So the question is, for a rape, will you take $5 million? Let's say he's guilty, okay? For argument's sake. Let's say he's guilty.
Yeah.
So he raped her. But money does speak. Jesus, $5 million is a lot of money. I can't imagine to be a woman, and I can't even think about getting raped. I can try and imagine myself in that situation and getting fucked in the ass in jail or something, like as a man. It's heavy shit, man. It's heavy shit. So I can't imagine how it is for a woman to get raped, to get taken advantage of like that. But at the same time, I don't know. How far are they willing to say, $5 million? Sure. I'll take $5 million. Not $1 million, but I'll take $5 million. And that's what the speculation is right now, is according to him. And I think it's real, personally. I think she denied the $1 million settlement, but then everything died down. There was no information or anything. And now we're wondering whether he offered her more, $5 million, because he's got the money. He's got 100 million, 200 million. Well, I don't know what he has, but $5 million, he could give her $5 million. And what is she going to say? Okay, cool, because $5 million can change her life. Yes, she got raped, sure, but she can get over that shit. I know that sounds horrible, but you can. Anything that happens to you, money does make the world go round, and if you fucking say anything contrary to that, you're a fool. Unfortunately. Like with money, you can set yourself free in a sense. It's just the way we've set things up. It's not something you might agree with, but it's the way it is. So if you give somebody $5 million, that girl might think now like, oh yeah, you know what? I can forget about all this. If she's strong enough mentally, she can say, I can forget about all this. I can fucking sort my life out. Hell, I might even become successful. And start a business or whatever with $5 million. That's the power of money. Don't deny the power of money. Money is powerful. Even though, me personally, I don't agree with money. I just think it's a tool. But at the same time, if somebody offers me $5 million.
Yeah, well, dude, I've got my business is for sale at the moment, and I think it's advertised at the moment for 250,000. So if you calculate that in dollars, let's say that's $16,000 to $18,000. Now, $16,000 to $18,000 will change my life massively right now.
It would.
Never mind $5 million.
You're saying it would.
No, I'm saying it will drastically change my life. Like we can't emigrate until that money comes up. And that money just basically repays all the effort that I did that first year and a half that I didn't work for a salary.
Exactly.
It just basically pays that out. So it's not. So I can only imagine. It's very hard for me to comment or say anything on this because I agree with you.
Can I just interject you quickly?
Please.
That depending on your own personal psychology, your strength, whatever it is, your own. Like, even something as rape. I'm not a woman, of course. And most women will probably look at this and go, well, what the fuck do you know? But would it be rape for a man or a woman? It's a horrible thing. But depending on your mindset, the way you look at it, you might get over it in a fucking week. You might not get over it for the rest of your life. And somebody who's strong enough to get over it might say, yeah, you know what? Fuck you. You really took advantage of me. But I'll take your $5 million. And that's the problem. And that's why you always get people who can get bought out.
Yeah, let's talk about something.
Can I put toilet on?
Please do.
Can I do it now?
Please go for it. There is a bottle of wine missing here.
Ski, medieval is best in the world.
The volume back up. Listen, this is one of the first few podcasts where it's a little bit more about me just having a good time with someone that's similar to me as opposed to a peer interview.
An expert on something.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like, listen, we grew up with the same background, and I just thought it'd be awesome to have a chat with you because we have so much in common. So this is a little bit more for me about what I want to talk about rather than... Listen, I find everyone interesting, but there's a bit like, if you look at all my podcasts, there is normally a main concept, like this guy's from the army, this lady is a dog expert, this guy loves spirituality, this lady is a doctor in chiropractic, or this guy's an actor. So that's basically the type of person you're going to talk to, where this one's a bit more like, listen, I just want to talk about what I find interesting. We had fucking 10 questions. I think we covered 5, and we're like just
Well, we could go into the conspiracy world, but...
No, we're not going to go. Like, I see, we're on about...
Let's stay away from that shit.
We're on 1 hour and 50 minutes, and I think the last topic I want to jump into, because we...
Have we talked for that long? Hour and...
Yeah, so it's a... hour and 55 minutes and counting. So
I thought we were just getting warmed up. But okay,
no. We're warming down. So the last one I want to talk to you about, because I think this might be helpful for people, is the death of your father. Because we're speaking quite freely of women possibly getting raped and how they should or shouldn't be dealing with it, or and we're talking about other people, but if we bring it back to what has happened to us, and what's happened to both of us is losing a family member, which I think I met another guy today. His father passed away 2 months ago, and he's 32, and I gave him my number. I met him last week, took him to a side. I was like, dude, I assume people have died in your life, but if you're similar to me, this is the first person to die that's very close to you, and it's a very weird experience. So here's my number if you ever felt like, fuck, I want to chat to someone that might understand that. And I think this is a topic that I don't hear too much about, but maybe I haven't done enough research. But and I think that's basically the topic that we'll end on. But your father died of cancer, and my brother died of cancer. My brother died in 2014. Your dad?
My dad last year, February, of brain cancer.
2019 or 18?
No, 18.
Okay.
Of brain cancer. and he was not my real dad. He was my stepfather. And he was the most fucking amazing man that I've ever met. His name was Raymond Danowski.
Is that Polish by any chance or Russian? Polish.
Polish.
Hmm.
And he... Hell, there might even be people watching this that knows him. He looked like Father Christmas. He owned Stellenbosch. Not owned it, but he... but he operated in Stellenbosch in such a way that he was such a generous man, and he gave to everybody that he met. Every single business in Stellenbosch, he would go in and be generous to them, and truly generous, not with a fucking agenda or anything like that. He's like, the guy was a legend, and my real dad, I never knew. I never even knew my real dad. I think I met him once in my life.
What happened there, if I may ask?
Sure. My real dad was an alcoholic, although he was a Springbok rugby player.
Okay.
So this is the funny thing, because I have to throw that in there because it really makes things interesting. Like, because I myself are wondering about the psychology of the man. That he was a Springbok rugby player in 1952. He was a VP player. He got chosen for the Springbok rugby team. They went to Scotland, but he never got to play. So he got the jacket and everything. My brother actually has the jacket. My brother from my father's side. My mother only has me, but my father had 3 children, which was the brother, the sister, and me. Van Conradi was sy naam. And he got chosen, and he was brilliant. He was really good. He was short guy, like he would fit me about here. But he was a scrum half, and he was fucking good. So he did that, right? And he was born into 5 sisters. So he was the only guy. And I've been trying to figure this out my whole life. Like, what the fuck drove you? Intelligent man, not just because after that he became a lawyer, right? So he's clearly talented. But he decided to drink, and drink himself to death, right? So I'm trying to figure out, why would you do that? I mean, what was eating at you? And I'm thinking maybe he was gay or something. Like, because if you suppress your sexuality, that's a powerful thing. Like, suppressing your sexuality would fuck you up. If you're gay and you're denying that to yourself, I personally believe that that's going to eat you to death if you don't fucking deal with it. If you don't come out as a gay person, to anybody listening, if you don't come out as a gay person, regardless of the consequences, if you don't come out, it will eat at you. And that's my theory. That's just my theory. I'm not an expert, but I've seen the patterns, and it will eat at you and it will kill you. And that's the only thing that fits my dad. It's like he was a Springbok rugby player. Regardless of whether you say, well, okay, he didn't really play a game. Yeah, he got the fucking jacket. He got everything. He was a VP player.
But did you ask your mom?
I asked my mum.
And what she said?
My mum said he was always icky towards women. Like, even though my mother was the woman in his life for a while, he was kind of odd towards women. Odd. Like, I can't possibly know what she means by that. But he was kind of strange, you know? But then again, I don't know if she's just trying to poison me against him. I don't think so, though. So, anyway, so this...
And sorry, if just for interest, just to throw it in there, a big part of my adult journey has been also to understand myself. And I'm sure from American football you've heard, but it's also a popular thing in boxing and in MMA, is CTE, brain damage. And obviously rugby, there's certain amounts of concussions that you can take, and then the personality. And I've gone through this massive journey of, I've had over 20 concussions, and there's certain parts of my personality that's slightly different, my memory, and you can confirm that. I mean, you yourself can see that. Yeah, no, fuck. Like, if you go listen to some of my podcasts, but a lot of my journey has been, I stopped doing downhill mountain biking, not because of the broken bones, but it's because of my brain capacity that's changing. So my short-term memory is definitely different. my ability to handle certain stressful situations has declined. Slightly more emotionally triggered. So there's this little neuron regulator in the frontal cortex that we think, if I had money, I'd go do scans and stuff. So I can definitely feel there's a slight difference.
Have you done the scan though?
I don't have money for that. So
Okay, so but right now it's.
but I don't need to do a scan to confirm that. I know who I am.
Okay,
I've
but-
changed as a person because of all the concussions.
But how do you know that you've changed because of that? You don't. You is it like a genuine deficit or?
Listen, I had 2 concussions. The one, I couldn't socialize with people past 5 o'clock in the afternoon because I would start slurring my words.
Yeah.
I would literally be like, I couldn't. And the specific concussion incidents, I could see that my brain's struggling. I would actually get headaches when I try to think. So it's a little bit of I would if I had money, please come do a documentary on me and let's go through the whole process. And I've talked about this a lot. Regardless, there's not much. I've already donated my brain for CTE research. So
How much would it cost you now?
I don't know. I don't know. All I know is I think a scan is about 15 to 20,000 rand, which I obviously can't afford because that's one of my cats that can't go to Europe with me. But have you considered that he might have had concussions and that might have played a part?
Honestly, never until you've mentioned it now have I thought about something like that.
Because look at Muhammad Ali, how he's Alzheimer's or whatever he had, dementia. I don't know what he had, but repetitive brain injury.
Okay, but sorry.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
No,
if you
fucking-
thinking,
Dude, this is fucking interessant. Absolutely. I'm thinking, okay, but after the rugby career, he became a lawyer,
yeah,
which is quite intensive.
yeah.
But maybe that has nothing to do with it.
But there's 4 cortexes and
Yeah.
different cortexes. So like my friend, I always joke. I'm like, dude, how does it feel to have brain damage? And he has like severe brain damage. He was in the ICU for fucking weeks. He can't taste. He can't smell. Because that's the cortex that he damaged. His short-term memory is fucked. He normally says that when I have a fight with my wife, I have to sort it out that night because I will not remember it the next day. And there's certain parts of his body that doesn't work that well because of the part of the brain that is injured. But with business, he's still a better businessman than what I am. Although there's certain parts of his brain that doesn't work that well. So I find that interesting because if you watch and what got me onto this initially was the Will Smith movie called Concussion. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have, but I can't really remember.
Yeah, so that's the Nigerian doctor that started checking the brain tissue, and CTE you can only see afterwards. And then there's a few people that committed suicide, and it turned out afterwards, and Dave Mirra, the BMX guy, was one of them. He committed suicide, and he's like one of the legends of BMXing. And I think... So I started seeing a few things within me, and if you look at the symptoms, there are similar symptoms, mild. And then I did a Rogan podcast where they had a neuroscientist, doctor, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was a guy that came back from the military and people that struggle with PTSD and brain trauma. And I listened to this podcast and the science, and I'm like, all the symptoms, that's me. And I went through the documents, highlighters and stuff. And mine is a repetitive brain injury. It's small blows to the brain that happens. And then there's shock waves that hits the brain. And there's stresses. If you're under a very stressful environment for a long period of time, it causes certain things to change. Fascinating research. And what that does is it creates hormone deficiencies. And if you want to fix it, then you need to go look at hormone deficiencies, and then you supplement that and you try to... I don't know, man. I'm just saying it's a very interesting field. So one, if we want to now speculate, your dad, if he was gay and he couldn't be gay, and especially in that era.
Because you don't come out gay.
So not only is there the secret, but there's the stress of having this other side. Then there's always the side of our parents grew up very Christian-like, and you're not allowed as a Christian to be gay, etc., 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 etc. So I can only imagine that. I worked in Soho in London, which is the gay district of London. And I used to love it. And I said to someone earlier, what I loved was people can just be themselves. That's what I loved.
Yeah.
I'm a people enthusiast, and when people can just be themselves and they don't have to feel bad, if it's black, white, Indian, colored, whatever, and colored in South Africa is an official term, so I listened to a podcast the other day. It was a bit of controversy, but
I couldn't give a fuck if you're gay. And I don't mean that. No, I have to clarify that I meet a lot of people who say I don't care if people are gay. I have a lot of gay friends, you know, and it becomes a fad. It's almost like veganism or some shit like fucking. It's a fad, man. It's a fad. Like I don't care about. I have lots of gay friends, you know. Like I don't care about who you fuck. I really don't, because my mother, this is where you can argue about the way you were raised, that and what role that plays. Because in South Africa, a predominantly Christian country, that is the wrong thing. So most of my friends right now are okay with it, but I can sense some kind of. It's just that's because that's what you have to say. Right?
Yeah, it's politically
I'd never
correct.
go. My mother's an artist.
Yeah.
She's a fucking hippie. I never knew my dad. And my mother never taught me anything about or gave her opinion about gays or blacks or anything. I couldn't give a fuck about that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to place myself on some kind of moral high ground here, but I really don't care if you're gay. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about it. If you're gay, you're gay. You know, and this is why I'm thinking like, okay, so maybe my dad was gay, and I can actually explore that without kind of denying it to myself. It's like, no, my dad's not gay because I have an issue with it. So I'm genuinely exploring the fucking possibility that he might have been gay, because at that time gays were just as prevalent as now.
Yeah.
They just were hidden, right? You couldn't come out. He was a Springbok rugby player, or he was a lawyer or whatever, and he was the only guy with 5 sisters. So I'm thinking, if you were gay, and my mother even said, like, even though she was with him, she didn't know, of course, for a fact.
Yeah.
But she said he was very odd towards women. His general approach towards women, and that's what I'm thinking. Like, what could kill a man? What could drive a man into alcoholism? Because if you're an alcoholic, you're destructive, and something is bothering you, right? Something is seriously bothering you. So what can do that to a man who's got all the talent, the physical talent?
Yeah.
So he was a Springbok rugby player or a VP player, or whatever you want to. He was physically accomplished. He was intellectually accomplished. He was a lawyer, right? So it takes some intelligence to be a lawyer. What drives a man like that to start drinking and just drink all the way till he fucking dies? And not even me, his son. I'm a copy of him. If you see me and him, I can show you photos of us. I look exactly like him. Not his other 2 children, which is they also live in Stellenbosch, which I actually have contact with. Nice people, nice guys. Like my sister and my brother, nice guys, nice people. But that I look exactly like him. And I'm thinking, if you saw me today, you know, it's a hard thing because I never had a relationship with him, never. So it's easier for me. If this all happened when I was 10 years old, it would have been a lot harder. But at 1 year old, my mother said, "Fuck this, I'm getting out,"
Mm-mm.
and she took me and she ran, basically.
Yeah, I definitely think for me to understand my mom and my dad, I've done a lot of research into my grandparents. So understanding my dad, I looked at his mom and dad. And
Did you have issues with your mom and dad? Was there any kind of issues?
yeah, listen, I have a great relationship with my father, except for the fact that he always supports my mom and he doesn't take my side sometimes. And I have a difficult relationship with my mom.
Yeah.
I just get the feeling I'm never good enough. But if I look at that, that's the way she was raised by her mom, and there was a very dysfunctional relationship. So for me to come at peace with my mom and my dad grew up with one leg, and he had his own stuff growing up as a kid, and then his father died when he was 16, and he couldn't have a childhood, and he had to start working. So when I say I want to have a PlayStation or a Sega fucking Dreamcast, he's like, well, fuck you. Like, that's not life, you know, life shit and life stuff. And so for me to understand my parents, I looked at where they came from. I looked at our culture as an Afrikaner, also the era that they grew up in, you know, and which era that they... so that plays a part, but then there's also certain genetics and certain things going around, and then there's certain, you know, environmental or situational factors also involved. And I can't listen. If I always say on the podcast, I have a problematic relationship with my mom. I have a great relationship with my dad, but they are wonderful people. If I could emulate what they did with their children, I would be a very successful parent. Hopefully I can do better, but judge me at the end. When my children are 35, then let's judge me. At the moment, I can't compare myself to them because I don't know what I would do in similar situations. I think they did a great job.
We haven't discussed that, though. That was one of your questions, wasn't it?
I think so, but I think we're going to have to wrap it up because we are over 2 hours.
Okay. But
And I feel like we can go on forever unless I just bring out more than one episode. I break this into a 2-part discussion. But what would you like to discuss?
only the fact, or the issue currently of technology, because I come from Sweden, which is the forerunner of technology and implementing it. It's like the beta testing country. And that's how this shit works. I mean, they implement it into smaller countries, like Sweden, who's got 10 million people. So, and then, you know, they'll do it to other countries. But the impact that technology has on our children, to cut it short, not to make it long, I will tell you, or you, the listeners, that you should not let your child sit behind a fucking phone. Period.
Yeah.
Period. Don't. It's damaging. Technology is great, and we're gonna go in that direction, no matter what. That's where we're going. But we can be a bit more responsible about it. And I feel like, Jesus Christ, if I put my child on an iPad for 2 hours, if I have to take him off that, he freaks out like it's an addiction. And I think this is one topic that nobody talks about, that everybody's dying to hear about. I'm not an expert, but I can only say from experience, which is ultimately the most valuable thing. Because you don't want to hear from some fucking guy who's saying, oh, you know, some CEO. Everyday people, me, you, whoever, that keep your children away from cell phones. And I'm actually planning on advocating for that, seriously, like in Sweden, like making a movement, fighting for it. Because right now in Sweden, and this shit's coming here, you know, it's coming here, don't make no mistake about it, if it's not already here in some extent. But in Sweden, if you go to school, you get a laptop at standaard 7, ek weet nie wat, like,
that's grade 9.
yeah, something like that. I don't know the translations anymore, but it's somewhere along high school. In the beginning of high school, you get a laptop from the state. You get that, and if you meet any Swedish kid anywhere in the street, doesn't matter if he's 10 years old. 10 years old is about the limit, I'd say, but 10-year-old is the average. They have a cell phone. They don't just have fucking Nokia. They have state of the art, the newest phone.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them. I sit on the bus and I constantly watch people because I'm an introvert, like I've said. I enjoy just watching people and trying to see some kind of pattern. And I see in the buses that Jesus, you don't even have to be a pattern expert. Every kid in the bus stands there with their phones like this, glued to it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And then they're standing with their friends because I watched them coming into the bus. And they come into the bus, 5 or 6 of them, which is surprising to me at this point. Like, geez, I'm surprised you even come into the bus as a group. But they come into the bus as 6 or 5 or whatever. And then they stand in the bus and they're on their phones like this. Like literally, I'm not joking. They come into the bus looking at their phones like this. They take their phone and they go.
Oh, fuck.
Because the bus ticket thing, the reader, is from the phone.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is, toot, approved, and then you stand back on the bus and you're like this. And then their friends standing next to them and they're like, yeah. And they look at their friends and they go like this, and they go like this. I don't know what they're talking about, obviously, because I'm not, but I can see what the fuck. They're actually interacting with each other through the phone. And he sends him something or her something. And she goes, oh, yeah. And they're laughing about it. And this is the social interaction that's going on now between young kids, and that's destroying them because they don't know how to talk to people. If they take that phone away, which is not illegal in Sweden, in the schools, they can take their phones to the schools. In fact, if anything has to get taken away from this conversation tonight, I would say this is my most important thing, that I'll use your platform to advocate this, which is wrong of me, I'm sorry, but I'm going to do it. That don't allow your children on social media. No, don't deny them it. Just control it. You cannot deny it, because it seems that humanity is going to go in that direction regardless what. Because we want to see where this is going. All of us have a subconscious interest to see where this all goes, because it's new. But at the same time, don't fucking just give your 10-year-old or 11-year-old a 15,000 rand phone, because that's what they cost. In Sweden, you don't pay anything because it's contract, right?
Yeah.
But you're giving him a 15,000 rand phone, a krona phone, because that's what they cost. This phone, I'm on contract. This phone is on contract, but if I want to buy it, it's costing me 10,000 krona.
Yeah.
This fucking dear, oh. And you're giving this to your child. You say, yeah, you have a $10,000 fucking, or krona or whatever, instrument in your hand, and I trust you with it. And you're open to the whole world. You're open to the whole goddamn world, porn, anything, whatever. And I'm not a conservative, I'm not a Christian. But like we talked before, like the pendulum has gone now from one side to the other side, where now everything goes. Before, our parents were too restrictive, too Christian, too whatever, and now it's swung to the other side, and it's just like everything goes. We don't want to offend our children has rights, blah blah. No, they don't have fuck all rights. They are our children. And don't give them a goddamn phone until they're 18 years old. Don't fucking do it. You're gonna pay the price. And there's people like me and like you, I think, can see this. We can feel it, we can see it. Maybe we can't explain it because the data is not quite there. Because for something like this, you need data, right? To make a fucking, you need at least 10, 20 years of data to actually say, okay, this is suggesting this or that. Yeah. And technology is new. Like we grew up 80s. I remember Sega. Yeah. So we were born. We are actually the best generation ever to have an opinion on this matter, because we got born. I was born when there was no computers, and then when the start of it all, so was you, and we could see the best of both worlds. We could see what was gained, what was lost.
Yeah.
So we are literally the most valuable, the last generation that can actually say, look, we can balance the two and say, okay, there's some good, there's some bad.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
No, listen, I agree with you. I don't have kids, so I'm a little bit, I can just say from my own experience, the less I am on my phone, the happier I am as a human. And I think a way to regulate your children being on the phone, a good way is to limit the amount of data that they are allocated per day. You know, if you could, if there was some sort of setting on a telephone where you could set that this telephone can only use 200 megabytes today. So regardless of which Wi-Fi you go to, there's a setting on the phone that the parents can do that says this phone will not be using more than, and I think that's how you regulate. And then the children actually have to choose on what do I want to spend my 200 megabytes a day on YouTube, on fucking porn, on downloading music, on whatever. And I think that's maybe a way forward. Like
It's new.
I think what's challenging with each generation is being a parent with new technological advances. You know, because our parents had to raise us with certain parts that they didn't grow up with. And now we've got to do it with our kids in a part that we don't really know. And like if I have to show my dad, or my mom's a lot better, but like sometimes I have to show my dad how to do something. Yeah, they're both still alive. So I have to show them how to do something somewhere on the computer. And like, Jesus Christ, this is primitive. But it's like, they didn't grow up with it. But I know I'm going to be the grandpa with my kid one day. He's going to be like, Jesus, Dad, don't you know how to fucking do this?
You're going to be like, Google. And they're going, no, that's fucking Google.
So I just think in general it's challenging to be a parent. Listen, if it was 400 years ago, I think there weren't that many technological advances. It was basically who's got the sharper sword. I think that used to be a lot more easier. But yeah, I'm not going to go much longer because I see we're approaching 2.5 hours almost.
Really? Are we sitting here for 2.5 hours?
It's 143 minutes and counting.
Okay.
So with 2 bathroom breaks minus 4 minutes. So that's about 140 minutes.
All right.
I always say that if you're still with us right now on this podcast, congratulations. You have just listened to a really long one.
Actually, I'm out of the picture. I've been sitting out of the picture the whole time.
Maybe, no, if you
my ego like cannot handle this shit.
Maybe with the entrance of the second bathroom break or...
doesn't matter.
So, but let's see. We'll see on the video. Dude, I'm going to wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I
hope somebody can take something away from this.
Yeah, well, I always say to people, listen, I'm going to always take something away from the podcast. And that's the most important. And you should walk away feeling something afterwards. If that's insecurity, if that's confidence, if that's a sense of accomplishment. Sometimes this provokes some thoughts for you and you leave here thinking about a few things. But I always walk away thinking of a few things. And at minimum, this will help me a lot to think about some stuff. And if you just look at it like that, that's awesome. And then people will listen and somehow this will contribute to their life. So, yeah, wicked, man.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it. And I feel I could have gotten into much more nitty-gritty.
I feel like we can get into much
maybe we should do another podcast with a conspiracy world.
Yeah, I'm definitely sure. Then
with a disclaimer that I'm completely responsible for everything that's been said on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think what you're doing is really great.
Yeah.
You just have to bite it out. Listening to everyday people are tired of being told who their idols should be or who they... Everybody has a lesson, like you say. I mean, you have that naturally, it seems. You know, just that everybody has something to teach you. And I love that. And you're the first guy that I've actually met that is willing to go that direction. Because most people are... And I can understand it. They want to get somebody big shot, you know, some expert or some this or some that. that will get them the views and get them this. But I think what you're doing now, if you just bite it out, man, I think you're doing a great thing. Just talking to people.
No, thanks, man. Well, I think one of the biggest life lessons I learned was that I can learn from other people. I don't have to make certain mistakes. I can talk to someone and I can just learn from them. And
Exactly.
I don't know, man. I've had to come to peace with the fact that I have a very curious brain, and I have to flood it with stimuli to feel good about myself. Because if I don't, then I can go into dark places in my mind. And when I talk to people, and I don't know, man, I just feel good. You know, I do have my times where I just want to be alone and stuff, but stuff like this, man, I love it. I love to see how different people do different things, and yeah, man. For an introverted guy, you have a fair amount of things to say. So congratulations.
I was nervous because I am introvert, and I'm insecure in that sense. Like, I don't know what the fuck to say, but you are very good at leading the conversation, and you made it easy for me. So thank you.
Yeah.
Really.
Let's finish it on that, dude. It's a pleasure, and thank you so much.
Yeah. No problem.
Awesome, man. Let me just press save here.
Ski, medieval is best in the world.
Met elke schoen om, blok.